This is the watchman giving a clarion call. Now, brothers, today I want to evaluate something that's unbelievably important to understanding our enemies, who of course are the central banks and the bullion banks that carry water for them. You see, to understand how best to proceed from here, we must clearly see where we are in this fight, this field of battle. We need a careful, objective observation of our enemy's strength and of our own. So this video will largely be centered on the banking dragon, the City of London itself, along with its vast but dwindling gold reserves. Now, for several years, folks have been hearing reports out of London that the gold vaults were empty. Now, I truly believe those prior people spoke in good faith. I really do. I believe they were sincere, but obviously, they were somewhat mistaken before, weren't they? Because London wasn't totally empty of their gold, or else this gold suppression scheme would have completely unraveled by now, right? I mean, how does the Bank of England, the Fed, or the Bank for International Settlements continue to deliver already leased gold to China if there's no gold left? They don't. That's how. Now, the reason I bring this up is that several weeks ago, the highly respected Peter Hambro discussed this very thing, and of all places on Bloomberg television, regarding gold and London's remaining stockpiles. He had some very telling things to say, and listen to a few words of his. I quote, "My baseline is they, the Chinese, have been buying, and the Indians have been buying in enormous quantities. It's virtually impossible to get physical gold in London to ship to those countries. We get permanent requests from Russia. Would we please sell our physical gold to India and China? Because there's no physical, only endless promises. And I really worry that the market, that paper market, could be stamped on, and people will say, sorry, we'll have a financial closeout, and it's all over." End quote. Very interesting, is it not? This is the same sort of stuff that folks like me have been talking about right here at the Truth HQ, right? Now let's tone down the hype right now. Let's get real. Certainly, London has less gold than they did several years ago. But let's be professional here, okay? Let's take a careful, scrutinizing look at just how much likely gold London still has to play with. Because if we don't do that, we'll keep getting our hopes up when someone speaks the truth like that, and the temptation to become jaded and bitter for many in our community will become overwhelming. I've seen it happen with my own eyes many times. So warriors, let's not be naive, self-deluded, or bitter. Let us instead be informed, realist, and invincible. Let's take a detailed look at the gold that the banking dragon still has left. Because remember, gold is the source of the US's and the UK's power. Their power is a money power, and without it, they really don't have the ability to project their will onto other nations as we've come to expect from them. So we must evaluate the dragon's remaining strength, their remaining gold. And the reason why this is a useful exercise is that we can't estimate how much time their gold rigging scheme has left if we don't know how many bars of gold are left. Now, firstly, I want to talk about a fantastic article in this regard that researcher Ronan Manley wrote on how much gold he believes is still in London within its sphere of control. And it has some great charts in it, which include gold held in the Bank of England. Now, of course, the Bank of England isn't a member of the LBMA. But let's be clear here. Without them, there would be no LBMA. Okay? The Bank of England has perfected the criminal craft of gold leasing, gold swaps, and rehypothecation into the minutest science. It's so critical to the entire apparatus that without this cloak and dagger, shadow banking part of this world, this crazy part that they're involved in, this gold rigging wouldn't exist. It couldn't. So it stands to reason, without considering the BOE in the picture, there is no picture. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the whole scene with the Bank of England included. Now, let's take a look here at 2011. Here's what the LBMA had in vaulted gold in 2011 on their books. And as you can see, 4 years ago, before this contrived downtrend began, London was what I'd call rather flush with gold. There were approximately 9,000 tons of gold just sloshing around in their London Gold Pool 2.0 in the LBMA clearing system. Now, most of that gold, that 5,586 tons, or roughly 62%, was held in the Bank of England, and much of that gold is custodial gold held for other sovereign nations, which, contractually speaking, should in theory be off limits. Now, take a look at that rate of descent from 2011 to 2014. In those 3 years, all in all, they lost about 1,500 tons. 1,400 tons from the other category, and another 100 tons from the Bank of England itself, presumably for repatriation purposes. Now, though, here's the showstopper. Look at the difference between the gold they had in 2014 compared to the gold they still claim to have here in 2015. Holy moly! In 9 months, their other category has been cut in half, falling from over 2,000 tons to just over 1,100, a full 900-ton cave-in. London is losing roughly 100 tons of gold per month. Okay, now, nearly all of that 1,122 tons of gold is ETF gold. And ETFs are most assuredly being drained of huge gold bricks and melted down into 4/9 fine kilo bars, where they await a very different monetary future. And I don't have to say where that gold is going, do I? We all know where it's going. But that's not all. Take a look at the Bank of England gold in 2015. It's caved 350 tons in just the last 9 months as well. It appears that, if nothing else, that repatriations are also accelerating there as well. Does it not? The confidence in London as the golden gatekeeper is waning and waning fast. So at this rate, London might be able to pull a year out of this, assuming they just stuck, to the non-Bank of England gold, and assuming demand doesn't pick up even quicker from here. If the powers that be truly wanted to do this to the last bar, that might be what they could get. Another year, maybe. Okay, but I personally don't think they'll do that. I think they've decided where the final line is that they won't cross in order to salvage some vestige of power and influence on the other side of all of this chaos. Now, there's another point I want to cover, though. Okay, several things are very murky here. For instance, the roughly 1,300 tons of gold contained on the Bank of England's books that's considered, quote, unknown or unaccounted for gold, end quote. The ownership of this gold is hard to even determine, but it's also difficult to even find out if it's still there at the Bank of England or not, for this startling reason. By the bank's own admission, this leased gold may or may not even be physically moved once it changes ownership. They can lease out the gold to someone else, but it may or may not remain in their vaults, even if it's on their balance sheet all the same. Even though someone else controls it, like the bullion banks, it doesn't matter. If someone else controls it, that's not really accounted for. And even if it's gone, it still may be on the books. Now, if you're thinking, well, Watchman, this is all clear as mud, don't feel bad. It's meant to be confusing. It's meant to be muddy. It's meant to be opaque. They don't want you to know the funny business, the fondling of your gold in the inappropriate places that's taking place because they don't want you to know about their crimes. Okay, now even that category, however, has shrunken by a third. Okay, ETFs are shrinking. Unknown gold is shrinking. Custodial holdings are shrinking. It's all one huge trend down the proverbial, slip and slide. And this is the takeaway. The bankers of London, D.C., and Wall Street, they're powerful, yes, but they're not gods. Remember, in the previous London gold pool, where they officially rigged the gold price for Bretton Woods, all the way up to the early 70s, that eventually ended because the gold was slipping through their fingers far, far too quickly. We are without a doubt watching history rhyme right now. As I've just demonstrated through these fine men's work, that London's gold pile, at least the one they're half-heartedly reporting and listing for us, is rapidly shrinking. They're set to lose almost as much gold in 2015 as they did in the previous 3 years combined. And with record demand from China, India, and Central Eurasian banks, their lifelines are being cut. So looking at all this, here are several key takeaways I want you to see. 1. It would appear that London is not yet out of gold, despite what you may be hearing. 2. The London gold pool is still burning through its and other people's gold. 3. The rate at which they're losing gold is rapidly accelerating. And 4th, the amount of gold that's easiest to play games with, the non-custodial ETF exchange gold, is just over 1,000 tons, about the same amount they've burned through in the first 9 months of 2015. Brothers, we're getting close. This second London gold pool is nearly empty. Not yet empty, but nearly. All the gold that's been sloshing around in the London pool, doing its best impression of water in a California drought-stricken lake, is evaporating. And when that London gold pool's gold finally dries up, ironically, it's at that very moment we'll witness the biggest splash of all. Watchman, you're killing me. Just tell us how long London has left. When will this wicked London gold pool finally bite the dust, Watchman? Well, to paraphrase the great Humphrey Bogart, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon it will end. And the effects will be felt for the rest of your life. This is the Watchman signing out. Stay vigilant and bring the fight to them.